Long before gunpowder cracked the sky and cannons turned castles to dust, there were other kinds of war. Fought not with fire, but with silence, myth, and stone. In the cold corners of medieval towns, where torchlight flickered like dying hope, men and women who had fallen through the cracks of society would sometimes vanish into legend. They didn't wake up dreaming of glory. They woke up hungry, broken, and nameless, perfect for the work no one else dared touch. These were the assassins. But forget the heroes in black cloaks. Picture instead a desperate soul hired by a noble who wants blood without blame. They carried no enchanted blades or smoke bombs, only a rusted dagger. Maybe a vial of questionable poison, and the crushing weight of knowing their client would likely kill them once the deed was done. Their tools were stolen. Their disguises were rags. Their triumphs were never recorded. To succeed meant vanishing without a trace. To fail meant being torn apart on a gallows while children pointed and laughed. And even if they lived, retirement was a myth. You couldn't just hang up the knife and become a baker. The past clings like bloodstains, so they moved from town to town, always facing the door, always flinching at knocks, until one day they simply weren't there anymore. Erased, forgotten. That was the job, that was the price. But long before these shadows crept through castle halls, another kind of darkness ruled from the light. Her name was Olympias, the priestess queen of Macedon, and mother of Alexander the Great. She wasn't born to thrones. She was born to omens. As a young woman, she danced barefoot in moonlit rites, communed with serpents, and whispered to gods older than kings. When Philip II of Macedon came calling, it wasn't love that bound them, it was prophecy. Lightning split the sky on their wedding night. Dreams spoke of thunderbolts and lions sealing wounds. From her very first breath as queen, Olympias knew her son was not merely mortal. And when rivals threatened his birthright, a new wife for Philip, a whisper that Alexander was not his true heir, Olympias, struck like a serpent in the grass. She didn't wait. She didn't plead. She left, plotted, and returned with blood on her hands. After Philip's assassination by a bodyguard, yes, but many still wonder who truly pulled the strings. She made sure her enemies vanished. The rival queen, Cleopatra Eurydice, and her infant daughter were murdered. Some say Olympias forced the queen to hang herself after watching her child die. Whether that's truth or slander, the message was clear. No mercy, no rivals. While Alexander marched east to conquer Persia, Olympias stayed behind, not as a passive mother, but as a spiritual architect of empire. She sent him relics, performed rituals, and wrote letters laced with warnings and divine fury. She feared not only enemies, but Alexander's growing belief that he was a god. He was, she believed, touched by the divine, but she was the hand that guided the lightning. After Alexander died in Babylon, chaos swallowed his empire. His generals carved up his legacy like vultures. But Olympias refused to fade. She raised an army, executed puppet kings, and seized power in Macedon once more. For a brief, blazing moment, she ruled. Then Cassander came, the cold-eyed son of her old enemy. He besieged her in the fortress of Pydna. For nearly a year, she held out, regal and unbroken. When she finally surrendered, Cassander did not strike her down himself. He let the families of her victims decide her fate. And still, no Macedonian would raise a hand against her. Too much myth surrounded her. Too much fear. So, foreigners were brought in, men who did not know her name, only the order. Thus fell Olympias, not with a scream, but with silence. A queen who wielded prophecy like a blade. Her bones turned to dust, but her shadow lingered in every tale of ruthless queens, in every whisper of divine right. Yet, even before Olympias walked the halls of Pella, another labyrinth of power stood beneath the Cretan sun, Knossos. This wasn't a prison for monsters, but a palace so vast, so twisting, it felt like magic. Rooms spiraled into courtyards, staircases led nowhere, light wells cut through stone like prayers. It covered over 150,000 square feet, more city than castle, more temple than home. This was the heart of the Minoans, a people who ruled not through conquest, but through trade, art, and ritual. They painted dolphins above their bathtubs. Women danced in flounced skirts, bare-breasted and radiant. Men vaulted over charging bulls in sacred games. Snakes coiled around goddess figurines, symbols of rebirth, of the earth, of mystery. In all their art, there were no armies, no battle scenes, only life, only beauty, and then, one day, it ended. No one knows exactly how. Some say the island of Thera exploded, sending tsunamis to crush Crete's coast. Others say the Mycenaeans came from the mainland warriors, who replaced Minoan elegance with iron and war. The palace at Knossos was abandoned. The frescoes faded lineae, their undeciphered script became silent. But the myth remained. To the later Greeks, Knossos was no longer a palace. It was a labyrinth. And in its depths, a monster, the Minotaur, half man, half bull, born of shame and divine punishment. Every year, Athens sent 7 boys and 7 girls as tribute. Only Theseus, guided by Ariadne's thread, could escape. Was the Minotaur real? No. But the maze? Yes. And the bull? It was everywhere, in horns, on rooftops, in frescoes, in rituals. Perhaps the myth wasn't a lie, but a distorted memory. A memory of a culture so strange, so powerful, that the Greeks could only explain it as a nightmare. Centuries later, a man named Arthur Evans dug through the soil and found the truth buried beneath the myth. He rebuilt Knossos, part archaeology, part imagination. But he gave the world back its forgotten past. Now, tourists walk its corridors. They feel the hum of ancient voices. They see the echoes of dancers, the ghost of a civilization that vanished like mist. But war never forgot Knossos, because beyond the assassin's dagger and the queen's ambition, beyond the sacred bull and the crumbling palace, there was another force, one that shaped empires with wood, rope, and fire, siege warfare. It began with simple things. A tree trunk swung against a gate, soldiers lifting it like lumberjacks, again and again, until the wood splintered. The Assyrians turned this into terror, mounting rams under armored roofs, rolling them forward like slow gods of destruction. Then came the catapult, born in Syracuse, refined by Rome. Twisted sinews stored energy like coiled serpents. Release, and a stone would fly hundreds of meters, smashing walls or shattering morale. But they didn't always need stones. Corpses were launched over walls. Diseased bodies, severed heads, fear weaponized. And then came the Trebuchet, towering, creaking, majestic. A massive counterweight dropped, the arm whipped around, and a 300-pound boulder arced through the sky like judgment. At the siege of Rochester Castle, King John's men tunneled beneath the wall, propped it up with wooden beams, coated them in pig fat, and set them on fire, bringing down an entire tower in flames. Defenders fought back with boiling oil, hot sand, and Greek fire that burned on water. They dropped rocks, set traps, and listened in terror for the sound of picks' underground counter, mining in dark tunnels, where men fought with shovels and knives in the suffocating dark. And all of it, the ram, the trebuchet, the tower on wheels, wasn't just about breaking walls. It was about breaking will. Because, in the end, the greatest weapon was not steel, but silence. The pause before the shot, the shadow of a siege engine on the horizon, the knowledge that no wall lasts forever. Today, the rams are gone. The trebuchets stand in museums. But the soul of siege remains. In cyber attacks, in economic blockades, in the endless game of who holds the gate, and somewhere in the ruins of Knossos, in the dust of Pitna, in the alleyways where assassins once stepped from the dark history whispers, not of heroes, but of those who changed the world by vanishing into it. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the shadows of the past as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories hidden in history.